Hutchinson, Kansas. Population just a tad over 42,000 people. Home of the state high school football champions, the Salt Hawks, and to some things out of this world.
We exhibit one of the largest collections of space artifacts anywhere in the world. Probably the key or the anchor piece is the Apollo 13 Command Module Odyssey, the actual spacecraft that the movie was based on. We also have a moon rock from Apollo 11.
Hutchinson also has a more earthly attraction. The Strattica Salt Museum. It's the only salt mine in the country that allows people to take tours.
Watch your step coming off there.
Inside, the mine is sort of like a time capsule that always maintains a constant 68 degrees. Here you can see old dynamite boxes left behind by mine workers in the 1950s. It's now preserved for hundreds of years to come. This tour is not for the claustrophobic.
Above us is about 200 feet of salt, about another 250 feet of shale and gypsum, about 100 feet of water-bearing sand, and the surface.
The jobs here mostly rely on the salt, agriculture, or medical industry, and the yearly Kansas State Fair. The city is the seat of Reno County and is much smaller than nearby Wichita. That's where we found Bill Wilson, a former Hutchinson News reporter who's now the managing editor at the Wichita Business Journal. Bill spoke to us about a day in Hutchinson he would never forget more than 16 years ago when he heard a nearby building explode.
It was a very distinctive sound. That's the way I would describe it. Kind of a, it wasn't a boom. It was more of a whoomph, a loud, magnified whoomph sound, if that makes any sense. I heard that sound and immediately grabbed a pad, a pin, jumped up and yelled gas explosion and went running for the door.
As of 10:45 this morning, the skyline of Hutchinson changed drastically. An explosion blew apart the decor, party supply, and woody furniture building.
I just kind of basically prayed to God that I'd get out of there and everybody'd get out of there okay.
She was one of the folks inside the building when it exploded. Amazingly, only 2 people were hurt, but neither of them seriously.
At first, this explosion was thought to be a natural gas line eruption, but as first responders cut off the utilities, officials would find out soon enough that this was just the beginning into something much bigger. A few hours later, geysers started popping up across the city.
Everybody was scared. They didn't know where the next explosion was going to happen. I mean, because they couldn't shut it off. And they thought it could be anywhere in town. You just don't know where. So it was like, should you be in Hutch? Should you leave town? I mean, a lot of scared people.
The day after the first explosion on January 18th, another explosion happened a short distance away. This time, it hit a mobile home park, killing 2 people. And now, Hutchinson was on edge.
Many people, until we found out what the cause was, did not know what was going on, and the fear of doubt, the fear of the unknown was plentiful, and we had to make sure that we get to the bottom of the whole situation so we could begin our recovery efforts.
Everybody was running helter-skelter trying to cover everything that was going on and then try to start figuring out where the fuel for this fire was coming from.
Local gas engineers and former salt miners started talking with officials to help them pinpoint the cause.
It took days for them really to discover what had happened. They were drilling wells all around town and putting in pipes to bring gas to the surface, and they were burning it off with flames.
The answer to Hutchinson's problem was found right outside of the city limits. Now, after a thorough investigation, the source of that explosion was linked back here to Yagi Field. This field is more than 7 miles away from downtown Hutchinson. Bill Wilson broke the story after the first explosion. He also covered it extensively after.
For 2 years, 3 years, until the case made it into the courts, basically. The court found, the legal process found that too much gas had been put in Yagi Field, in a particular cavern in Yagi Field that had a badly leaking supply pipe.
It was also determined Hutchinson's past came back to haunt the city.
Hutchinson has dozens of old abandoned brine wells that were put in back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they're abandoned. And that's where the geysers were coming from.
That's just gotta be gas that's burned.
In fact, the party decor building had a 700-foot well directly underneath it, but hidden by years of renovations and additions. This gave the escaping natural gas from Yagi Field a route to the surface and eventually into the building.
It was a hotel at that time, and the hotel was famous for its salt baths. And there was an old brine well right below the hotel.
After the explosion, the building was torn down and turned into a parking lot. A small memorial now stands on the corner to serve as a reminder to Hutchinson. Looking back, Bill reflected on the story he spent long days and nights over.
It was a case of good intentions, uninformed good intentions is what I would call it. The gas company, the state, were all trying to do the right thing. They just didn't understand what they were up against with the geology, with the necessity of pressurizing those caverns appropriately. It was a lot more delicate a process than anyone ever believed. It was a very difficult education for the area.